Hello everyone, and welcome back to the classiest cavern on the World Wide Web. Today, we are talking about Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, a week late as per. This is the first big bit of news that we've gotten from them in a long time. The last piece of news was an April Fool's joke about them putting this little piece of crap Fiat, the Fiat Multipla. Oh, it's going to be in the game, April Fools. That was the last update, and now we've gotten an update since then letting us know that, well, it looks like we got our wish. The game is getting delayed until 2023. No hard date they've provided us, but I mean, at the very least, that news to me is exciting to know. I mean, we've talked about this, about how it didn't look great.
Definitely not. Like, who the hell announces that it's going to come out this year and then they don't show anything except the trailer? That doesn't make any sense.
And especially since the trailer didn't even, it didn't have any gameplay, there weren't any screenshots, none of it was even in-engine, but you're gonna put out a solid date, yep, it's coming out this specific day next year, and then radio silence for 6 months after that.
Feels very cyberpunky in that regard.
Well, yeah, funny thing you say that, because a lot of the articles that have been talking about this delay have been like, oh, this is good news, because this isn't the first open world game we've seen that's been at risk and needed to get delayed further. They've referenced Cyberpunk, so...
Yeah, man, we were calling out this bullshit before it was cool, before everyone else started hating on us for calling it out.
Yeah, a lot of vitriol on some of those videos, a lot of dislikes, and people saying we were trying to kill the game. No, guys, we were trying to save it, and we got our wish. It looks like the game has gotten a reprieve as of this delay. Of course, that wasn't the only piece of news they provided. They also let us know, and you were mentioning this before, because you were shocked about this. They've said that to ensure the quality of the game, they were also going to be canceling the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 versions. They were just going to be focusing on next gen. And, to your surprise, what did they say they were going to still keep doing?
For whatever reason, they are going to keep the Switch version, which kind of blows my fucking mind. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, on a surface level, yeah, you'd think, and especially given WRC on the Switch, some of the screenshots of it, my God, when you compare it to both the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X, oh my God, it looks terrible. In fact, I think in Digital Foundry, their tech review of it, they described the pedestrians and some of the side details as PS1 era, which, I mean, on a surface level, you look and it's yeah, a big open world game like that, that's kind of scary that they would put something like that on the Switch. However, I've been looking into this, and it turns out that other developers have already figured out a way to get stuff to run on the Switch. And the way they do it is they do it through the cloud. It's an always online sort of cloud gaming setup. So Hitman 3, Guardians of the Galaxy, and a few other games have already done this with varying success to get it to run on the Switch. So I'm assuming it's going to be that route if they do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've actually been playing some games on the cloud through Game Pass. I mean, it kind of makes sense that they would go that route with the Switch version because just from my own experience playing cloud games on Game Pass, it works surprisingly well. Of course it depends on the internet environment that you're working with, but for the most part you get a pretty seamless experience gaming. You can get solid 60 frames. That's with your internet connection permitting, of course, because it's just running on the server side, and it's a temporary solution considering Nintendo's leniency and being just not really being there in terms of hardware, not matching the current gen's hardware expectations that a lot of us have now.
Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. The thing is, though, it does bring up a return to a prior worry that I had, which was that the history of this game, how it was, an MMO, or as the original game was described, an MOOR, a massively open online racer. I am concerned that this is going to be an always online thing. It's going to be something like The Crew 2, where it's just yeah, you've got this massive open world and all these cars to play with, and but with the online focus isn't just going to be a focus, it's going to be the game, basically. I do worry about that. Because if it's going to be the case, which again, I'm sort of along the lines that the Switch version isn't going to be this potato mode version of the game, but is just going to be streamed through to the Nintendo Switch. If that's the case, what's stopping them from doing the same thing with next-gen consoles?
Yeah, man, there's... I don't know what the term is, but really putting that like barrier of entry for a lot of us in terms of if you live in a rural part of the world, then you're pretty much screwed in terms of taking advantage of any of these streaming platforms.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it really
or even
does.
if you just can't afford it, because it's just expensive, a lot of this stuff too. It's a luxury in the U.S. at least.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, so that's one thing that I look at and think to myself, ugh. I mean, I hope not. Previous games published by Nacon and developed by KT Racing, like previous WRC games, have not required an internet connection to play. So hopefully it'll be set up like that and like the older games, because I can tell you what, as somebody who has played a lot of Test Drive Unlimited recently, like for the making of the last couple of videos we've done, where I've gone through and done a fresh playthrough start to finish of the first game, one of my favorite things about that game is that I can still play it. Over 15 years after it came out, I can still just plug in my 360, put the disc in, and play it as if nothing ever happened. I fear that a day will come, like, depending on what happens with this game, in 2030 something, where it's like, oh man, that game was awesome, I want to jump back into it, and I go on, and I'm stuck at the title screen, because the DRM won't let me get any further.
Yep, that's every gamer's nightmare, just not being able to play a game for the nostalgia factor because it's held back by the stupid DRM requirements, as opposed to just having at least some version on a physical disc. Doesn't bode well for preservation, so.
Nah. I mean, hopefully the whole backlash with Gran Turismo 7 has given them pause in terms of implementing anything like that, because I think that game's still sitting at a 2.0 on Metacritic for user review scores.
As it
Like,
should.
they're still good. Yeah, as it should, between, you know, the always online and all the microtransactions and everything. It's like, I don't know. Anyway, that's another discussion, though, talking about.
That's another whole can of worms we can get into it on a later discussion video or podcast, whatever we decide to do for these things from now on.
Anyway, so yeah, there was that bit of news. You know, the delay, obviously, regardless of online or not, at the very least, the delay means we're going to get a more polished game. In fact, they were actually saying specifically that they delayed it and cut it from the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 specifically in order to ensure that it was as polished and could take as much advantage of next-gen hardware to make it look really good and to actually ensure that it could perform to modern standards.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, you know, we're an entirely new generation of gaming right now where it's just all about just high graphical fidelity. You got to be hitting at least 4K 60 FPS now to really be competitive in the market, and like, you know, people just are setting those expectations. And I bet now that GPUs are slowly becoming easier to get a hold of, like, people are just really going to want to get the best experience possible with this game. And
Yeah.
I don't think they really want to. I mean, for some people, they don't have a choice in terms of like using a PS4 or whatever they have already. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in this way, it kind of makes sense. They would just get rid of those versions completely, just to really focus on the quality of the final product, and, you know, just a lot of prayers were answered essentially.
Yeah, by a guy who was asking, hey, you know, considering what's going on, how they're just going like, should I just bite the bullet and get a PlayStation 5 now? Or an Xbox Series X right now, is what this guy was saying. I just straight up let him know, like, no, don't buy anything yet. The game, we haven't even seen this game yet, dude. Like, just wait it out, you know, just play it by ear, you know, and by the time the game's finally out, there is a silver lining to it. Like, these consoles are probably going to be much easier to find, and you might actually be able to get them for under $500.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it's only going to benefit somebody, you know, to just wait it out, you know, given the cost and, you know, the fact they're pushing for it to be next gen only. But also, it's like, we don't even know if it's actually going to be good yet. Like, as much as, like, it can only be better than it was going to be prior to the delay. I will say that much. But how good that's going to end up being, it's like, we don't know. Like, because it's still a very ambitious game. It's, when you look at it, there have been people who've done measurements of it. They were actually quoted as saying that the Hong Kong island has over 550 kilometers of roadway on it that they want to fully recreate. Yeah, it's huge. Like, the game, both in terms of the overall map size and in terms of the number of roads, is going to be even a little bit bigger than Forza Horizon 5. That's super ambitious, especially for a developer that doesn't really have any history with open world games. And no, the Isle of Man motorcycle game they did does not count. For anybody in the comments who might be wondering, that does not count as far as I'm concerned.
Something to really point out as well is that considering it's Hong Kong, it's going to be a lot more tightly packed than Forza Horizon 5's map in Mexico, because the map in Forza 5, like, it's pretty well spread out, and there's not a whole lot of like civilization.
There's a lot of empty areas, yeah,
per se, except for like Guanajuato and like just the coastal towns, Baja California and stuff. But you get to Hong Kong, and I feel like 75% of that island is like just urban sprawl, because it's just so tightly packed, and see a lot of high rises and a lot of like population density. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they pull that off, and it becomes a seamless enough experience so that it doesn't frame drops.
Yeah, that's
when you're going from one side to the
makes
other.
sense. And I actually, with that in mind, especially considering they're a third-party developer as opposed to like first-party, where they have a little bit more knowledge about the specific nuances and like sort of shortcuts to maintain quality, you know, on a specific console. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like a performance mode versus like fidelity mode situation, where for 4K, it's like, it's 4K, but it's like an unlocked sort of frame rate, or like you can lock it to 30 or 40, like FPS. And then there's like a 1440p 60 mode. Like, I wouldn't be too shocked, especially given just how ambitious this game is.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, it's really important to have a lot of different modes for people who have different preferences, who want to, you know, focus on fidelity, graphical fidelity, and it looks good, or for those that want to have just a smooth 60 frame per second experience or more. It should be important to have that sort of mode as well. So it'll be interesting how they tackle that.
It's still very up in the air. And again, a lot of this is just boiled down to the fact we still haven't seen the damn thing. Actually, just looking back here, like just reading through some of the pages, it's like, you know, it's got 1-to-1 scale, it's got beautifully recreated cars, a realistic driving experience, social interaction with other players. It's more than just a racing game. We really want to recapture that for all these people, and we want to create an experience that players who love Test Drive Unlimited, an authentic experience is what they were saying, you know, buying cars from a dealership, listening to the radio while you're driving, being able to use your turn signals and roll down the windows, you know, which
showing off the drip.
Yeah, exactly, and that is a big factor, and we'll get to the drip because they get into a little more detail about the whole streets versus sharp info sort of towards the bottom of it. But yeah, like they are mentioning and they are acknowledging, which is nice. It's like, we get what you want, we're going to try to deliver as much of it as we can, which is nice. But overall, like, that's the thing about it, like this news page, it feels, at the risk of angry comments, this feels a lot like a GoFundMe page. Like, in terms of what it, like, I know that's a mean thing to say, but it's like they're talking about what they're trying to do and what they're hoping to do, and then what we're left with is a couple of like pieces of concept art.
Oh yeah.
Like, the only thing missing is a like donation button. You know, in terms of
basically,
like, I'm not saying that the game is going to be bad. You know, despite, like, the delay is good. That's a nice silver lining around this dark cloud that we have. But the cloud is there regardless. Like, we still haven't seen any gameplay. We're still in a stage where it's like they've shown a couple of like CAD renderings of different sort of style of 3D models and like some concept art, and that's it. We still haven't seen any screenshots or any in-engine footage. The game's still a bit in limbo.
Yeah. Still got no real proof that it exists besides just the announcement and the trailer, or that there's even a working, functioning build of the game. So,
well, I mean, they are trying. I mean, like, if nothing else, they're doing a good job of bluffing, because they did mention that there is going to be beta testing, I should mention, or they're planning on.
Oh, okay.
So we're currently working on a schedule for closed betas, is what they said. So there's at least something that they have. What that something's going to be, God knows, like, how far along it actually is. And, you know, again, like, it's just shocking that we're 2 years in after the announcement. We've gotten a release date and like multiple trailers, still haven't seen the goddamn thing. That blows my mind. And like, people like Alex7 have like commented, oh, this is just their marketing strategy, man. It's like, well, if it is, it's a really bad one, because it makes everybody f***ing nervous. Because we've seen this before. We've seen games that it's like, oh yeah, this is coming out, this, and then it's like, yeah, don't worry about it. You know, don't worry about any of this. A lot of the times it's like, because they're hiding shit. So, I don't know. Hopefully they come out with some footage that's representative of the final game.
Yeah, maybe they show some sort of gameplay trailer, quote-unquote gameplay trailer, during like Summer Game Fest or during like the PlayStation or Xbox showcases.
Yeah.
Just something, just a little something we need to just know that it's working, and it's if they're announcing that they're going to be beta testing this stuff, then they really need to just show people what it actually looks like and how it runs and how it plays, just to really get an idea what to expect. I mean, of course, it may be still a ways away because it got, of course, delayed and everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just can't leave us blue ball for too long, you know, because then you get a Blue Box Studios situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the thing is too, it's like people in like the Discord and, you know, the Reddit and all these other pages, it's like other people have been mentioning, it's like, yeah, this is kind of BS what they're doing with us. It's like they've been pulling us along. Summer Game Fest asked like, what publishers are you hoping to see at hashtag Summer Game Fest? Nacon, the publisher, replied, who knows, with like a raised eyebrow. It's like, dude, don't be coy at this point. It's like, what the f*** are you thinking? It's like, say yes or no. But Nacon also has its own little, like, it sort of does like its own equivalent to like Nintendo Direct, where it shows all this stuff, because for a air quotes AA studio, or whatever pedantic nonsense people want to use to define this studio, they have their own equivalent where they show, like, you know, they had this Gollum video game where you play as Gollum in the, you know, the world of the Lord of the Rings, and they've got a few other things. Yeah, it's like they've got actually a surprising like breadth of different stuff that they've put in there, different of those like simulator games. I've seen a few of those. I think they might have done Bee Simulator as well. Yeah, they've got a surprising variety of different things. They've got a Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. They got a wide variety of stuff to show off, and for sure, if it doesn't show off at Summer Game Fest, like they'll show it off at Nacon Connect.
Oh God. Or who are they trying to be, EA?
Well, that's, I mean,
with that title.
They're trying, I mean, I hope not. Like, again, because one of the things I talked about in one of the earlier videos on like why we're still worried about Solar Crown was like, this seems primed for microtransactions. Like, if there's any game where you could sneak microtransactions in, it's like a rich Playboy simulator, which is kind of what they're angling for. Like, this is the one to do it. And actually, on that note, I figure now's as good a time as any to go into how they, like, provided a little bit more, like, just sort of, like, lore details. The clan rivalry between the Sharps and the Streets, you know? It's a very West Side Story sort of rivalry that they've got going. It's kind of like that. The way they're portraying it, it's sort of the classic, like, this side versus that side rivalry. It's rich versus rich, but it's like one of them's framed as more like the rebel sort of group, and the other's framed as more like the big authoritarian sort of group. I don't know. It's like an equivalent. It's
the investment bankers versus the crypto bros.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. That's the best way of putting it. It's like, yeah, it's like the Wall Street types versus the Bored Ape Yacht Club. That's essentially what it is. Let me read the description for you. Each clan wants to impose its style on the city. Players can therefore choose to align themselves with a clan and help to champion its lifestyle. While respect from the rival clan remains, there is always a determination to show off their superiority behind the wheel. Each clan also has its own headquarters for gathering, celebrating victories together, and finding new missions to complete. Whether your vision of luxury is refined and elegant, or provocative and rebellious, you always have the chance to showcase it. The Streets, whose culture has a more underground nightclub vibe, gather in an old building that they have taken over for the Solar Crown competition. It is located in the industrial district of Wanqi on the north-central part of the island. As for the Sharps, they have privatized the top floor of the balcony of a luxury building in the western district on the west part of the city. A more subdued and sophisticated atmosphere reigns in their headquarters. Each of the headquarters has a quote-unquote public area that can be accessed by all players, whether they are a street or a sharp, but the more interesting part is the VIP area, which is only open to clan members who have proved their allegiance. Again, very light, like the only real gameplay thing is like, here's an area that's going to be like a hub zone where everybody can go, and here's like a more VIP area where only certain players can go.
Great.
You know?
More social stratification in gaming, great.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like it's like, how easy would it be for them to sell like, oh, here's like a golden suit, you can buy it on the, you know, on the Microsoft store for $5.99 to show off to all your fellow sharps. Make them feel inferior. That's kind of what I'm worried about. And I just, like, one of the things I mentioned in one of the videos, it's like, I think that the section was titled The 1%. Like, how the concern was, it's like, they're going to be going away from this more just sort of general, like, theme of, like, a luxurious automotive lifestyle where it's like, you could see it as, like, just a meritocracy where it's just like, yeah, I actually built myself up by racing and, you know, I did all of this and I earned this. And, like, the second game just really went heavy into just, like, oh, you know, all these rich people, they're all a bunch of a-holes who, like, you know, didn't earn all their stuff. And it's like, you're just a lowly peasant trying to, you know, become one of them. And this one seems to be going hard on that with just the description. It's like, each clan wants to impose its style on the city. Impose. Like, you know, force everybody to, like...
So it's basically just the competition to see who has the better Sigma male grind set.
It kind of does feel like that way. It is a very Sigma male grind set thing, and it's like the way they've turned for the sharps. They've privatized the top balcony. I don't know. I'm not liking the vibe of this. Like, they're portraying it like being an asshole is a flex as far as the marketing's been concerned for this. It's like the streets, like their representative is this woman who's got like gold leaf painted nails, and she's got a gold plated Range Rover. That's the, which makes sense given it's like, yeah, they're brash and outlandish, and it's like, that makes sense. But even the sharps, the quote unquote more reserved, refined, elegant, and mature group, it's like the license plate for the car that's representing them, it's like, it says too rich for you. It's like, wow, you know? Oh, God. It's like, God, so everybody's just a prick in this, and it is very much TDU too. It's like, oh God, all these garish people, and it's like, the end goal of the game is to be one of them. That's lame. That's kind of whack.
It's just gonna be a huge competition to see who can put the most gold rings on their fingers while they're driving.
Yeah, it's
and
like...
just showing off their bling, basically, and shit.
Yeah,
it's like...
There's a mini game where you throw like dollar notes to like homeless people on the side of the street to up your rep, like, you know, philanthropy. It's just, I don't know, and I'm sure there are going to be people in the comments. It's like, hey man, if you hate rich people so much, then why do you? People will say it's like, why are you making this so political? It's like, no, the second game made it political by like taking something that was surface level, where it's like you could interpret it as, it's like, yeah, anybody could become this. Like, Test Drive Unlimited, the unlimited could be, you know, interpreted as the unlimited freedom with which somebody who's playing the game can, like, live out this fantasy. And it's like the second one. It's like, yeah, you only got to do any of that because this one, like, aloof billionaire threw you the keys. Like, it's like they all get to be a bunch of, like, gatekeepers for it. And it's just like this one's sort of doubling down on that. It's like, just lame, you know?
I wonder if that, like, when it finally comes out, it'll all just be a bait and switch, and it turns out to be like the most woke ever.
Well, that's kind of what I would like, a more self-aware sort of thing. As of this moment, looking at this the way it is, it's like I don't see an appealing reason to side with either of them. It's like they both seem kind of like slight variations on the same sort of, you know. It's like if there's another, because I mean, at the end of the day, like, yeah, money's an important factor. It is an affluent automotive simulator. That's what Test Drive Unlimited is. And I'm not saying I don't want that. It's like that's a huge draw of the game for me. It's like, yeah, I've got this amazing mansion and I've got this garage full of Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Like, that's why, you know, that's at the heart of Test Drive Unlimited. But it'd be nice if there was like another faction that was more along the lines of like the first TDU experience, as opposed to like these two, which is like slight deviations on like the second game. So, I mean, again, it's like, it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen until they reveal more information. I hope that this video ages like milk, just to be honest, because if it does, that means that they've shown some gameplay at the upcoming event a few weeks from now. You know, whether it's Summer Game Fest or Nacon Connect. You know, where they actually show it, and maybe we will see, you know, some nuanced takes in a way that doesn't compromise the fantasy of, you know, driving expensive cars in a big island. But you know what I'm saying? You know, so hopefully, you know, there's some self-awareness. Hopefully we learn that it's not going to be always online. But as of the moment, like, a lot of the stuff we were concerned about is still on the fence. The only thing that's really been stated is, like, them basically assuring people, it's like, yeah, we're trying to make it a TDU game, which is nice to know when the developer of the TDU game is making one, and that it's been delayed, which, nice. And honestly, in a certain way, depending on how far along they are, maybe they should delay it even more, like, not even just to 2023, but to like holiday 2023.
Yeah,
just to make sure they get it right.
That'd be wise.
You know? I think that's about it. So if you enjoyed the video, please click like, subscribe, ring the bell so it does whatever it does. If you hated this video and you want to argue with me in the comments, feel free as well. I love doing that because I'm a psychopath. And otherwise, yeah, we hope to see you next time on the classiest cavern on the World Wide Web.